The Monkees, Daydream Believer. The filmmaker Bob Rafelson passed away this week, and someone had shared Davy Jones doing an amazing dance routine from the film Head with Tony Basil. It was Edgar Wright, director. It was so brilliant. I'll put it on my social media for you to see. Lenny Henry coming up, Simon Le Bon, and of course it's Thursday, so it's Jay's quiz. If you're playing along, let us know. This is Radio 2 on the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker, and on 88 to 91 FM.
BBC News at 8 o'clock on Thursday, the 28th of July. Good morning, this is Tina Dahealy. What's been described as the biggest ever Commonwealth Games will be opened by Prince Charles this evening. Unions have criticised the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer for sacking a shadow minister who joined striking rail workers at a picket line. And Vanessa Feltz says she's looking forward to catching up on decades of beauty sleep as she announces she's leaving Radio 2. What organisers say is the biggest ever Commonwealth Games begins in Birmingham later today, with Prince Charles representing the Queen at an opening ceremony that's expected to be watched by millions around the world. £750 million of public money has been spent getting everything ready for the Games, which is the first major event to fully integrate parasports into its main schedule. The Mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street, said everything was ready to go.
I guess the first word is really proud that this is ready. I've got that little bit of daunting. It's a big responsibility, but it's a huge privilege. First event open to everybody after COVID, of course, and we're bringing people from 72 countries around the world. And of course, it's the biggest sporting event since London 2012. So a responsibility, but a credible privilege as well.
Unions have reacted angrily to the decision by the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer to sack a shadow transport minister after he joined striking rail workers on a picket line yesterday. Sam Tarry attended the protest at Euston Station in London. Our political correspondent Ian Watson has been following the story.
They are saying that he wasn't sacked for going on a picket line. There are some other junior members of Labour's team who've done exactly the same and have just had their knuckles rapped. They say it was an unauthorised media appearance that basically finished his frontbench career. They're saying that he was effectively freelancing on Labour Party policy and that he had to go.
A safeguarding review of the events leading up to the murder of 13-month-old Leland James Corkhill in Cumbria will be published later today. He was killed in January last year by Laura Castle, a woman who had hoped to adopt him. In her first interview, Leland James' mother, Laura Corkhill, said her son was wrongly removed at birth and would still be alive if he'd been left with her. Our special correspondent Ed Thomas reports.
Laura Corkhill says Leland James was taken from his hospital cot by a social worker 2 days after his birth. She believes extreme domestic violence she suffered in the past led to social workers believing her child would not be safe with her. Laura Corkhill says after Leland James died, a social worker refused to say which hospital he was in, and when they did, he was dead by the time she arrived. Cumbria County Council say at the time the extent of his injuries wasn't known and that Laura Corkhill was supported by her own social worker. They added that in July 2020 the family courts agreed that Leland James should be adopted, and when a child was at risk of harm they had a duty to act.
NHS leaders are warning that a shortage of staff to care for people in residential homes or in their own properties is having a significant effect on hospitals. The NHS Confederation says patients are being stuck in hospital and more are ending up in accident and emergency. The government says billions of pounds of extra investment will bring about major reforms in adult social care. The latest annual climate report from the Met Office shows sea levels are rising more quickly around the UK as temperatures continue to increase. The research also shows that the country is warming faster than the global average. Here's our science correspondent Victoria Gill.
This latest Met Office report confirms that the UK is on a steady upward temperature trend. One of the starkest impacts for the UK is sea level rise. Since the 1900s, sea levels have risen by about 16.5 centimetres. They're continuing to rise, and the rate at which that's happening, this study shows, is accelerating. More coastal communities, roads and railways will need to be protected from surging seas, floods and storms. But holding back the most damaging impacts of climate change, scientists say, requires deep cuts in greenhouse gas emissions that this report shows is becoming increasingly urgent.
Vanessa Feltz has announced she'll be leaving Radio 2 next month. She will also be stepping down from her Radio London breakfast show after nearly 20 years. Announcing her departure this morning, Vanessa said she was heartbroken to be leaving Radio 2, but needed to catch up on a decade of beauty sleep.
You know that I have loved every single moment with you, but I am a trifle frayed at the edges, and I would like a little bit more shut-eye and the energy to swing from zip lines with my grandbabies and frolic after midnight just once, maybe with Ben, without my carriage turning into a pumpkin.
Today's weather. Patchy rain will continue for northern England and southern Scotland today. Elsewhere, we'll see patchy cloud even, and a few sunny spells with some scattered showers later. Temperatures reaching 23 Celsius in London, 19 in Cardiff and 17 in Belfast and Edinburgh. That's the BBC News at 8:05.
We are going to miss our early morning friend. There is no one quite like Lady V. She's magnificent, and we shall celebrate her big time. And she'll be able to stay up all night, bless her, and not have to go to work in the morning. Thank you very much, Tina. See you for the quiz.
Oh, yes.
BBC Radio 2. Listen live on the BBC Sounds app. The Zoe Ball Breakfast Show.
Good morning, dear hearts. Thursday, the 28th of July, and much to be excited about. The Commonwealth Games kicks off tomorrow. The opening ceremony is on BBC One tonight at 7 at the Alexander Stadium in Birmingham. Prince Charles will be there. He'll be reading a message from Her Majesty the Queen, which has been put inside the Commonwealth Games baton. Oh my goodness, which was carried by Lenny Henry, who is our guest at 8:35. You can watch on the telly, obviously at 7 with Claire Balding hosting. She's so splendid. And Duran Duran will be headlining, and we'll catch up with Simon Le Bon live on the show at 9:10 this morning.
Check it out.